All right, so the next one's from Jackie Jones, and the subject is "Outsiders Don't Help Wrestling Anymore." So I was reading that before COVID messed up everything, WWE were planning to do a big stadium show in Scotland or England that was going to be headlined by Drew McIntyre versus Tyson Fury. Personally, I don't get why WWE would waste their time on this. Tyson Fury came into WWE last year. It changed nothing. Ronda Rousey came in the year before. It changed nothing. Mike Tyson came into AEW this year, and it barely changed the ratings to what they usually get. Basically, my question is, have we now gotten to a point where nothing can be done to pop a large rating? Tyson Fury is the number one guy in boxing. That didn't change a thing. I keep reading the rumors that The Rock is coming back from Mania, so that just might do it. But really, K100 team, is there a possible outsider that could help, or the issue just that wrestling isn't popular enough at the minute? My answer is that wrestling is not popular enough at the minute, and you do not have enough of people that would be interested in engaging in wrestling because an outsider is in there. The only guy that's going to make a difference is if The Rock comes back, and you're going to have a lot of people that have changed the channel and turned off wrestling will go back and watch The Rock. And I think that really can't even be argued. The guy's the number one actor in the world right now. So what do you think, Konnan? But other than that, he's right. Wrestling's profile is not big enough right now, and it's not as popular to use an outside influence to try to draw because the product just looks the same across the board to everybody.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Tyson's appearance didn't do anything because it was 22 years later, and it sucked. He was bad at, he was awkward. He was, I don't know.
Bro, no. Just compare the way they did it before, where Tyson came out and they were holding him back, and Stone Cold in front of him, and then he came out with this dipshit that looked like it was drunk on TV. It looked amateur, looked no real buzz. Wasn't exciting. You know what I'm saying? Did they even have people back then or no? I don't think they did, right?
Bro, let me tell you what they did.
Let
me tell you what they did. Right. You got to remember the Tyson appearance. I remember this. Okay, is Tyson showed up? I forgot where did he show up originally? He was
He was at the Royal Rumble in '98.
He was at the Royal Rumble. Okay?
He was cheering in the balcony and all that.
Box.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And there was this thing about I forgot what he did, but they ended a show. Okay, and then back then, Austin promos, Rock promos, these were ratings draws. If you saw Austin in the ring talk with a mic, that was a draw, right? And that's weird because it's funny how we don't really see that anymore with anybody. That hey, this guy's cutting a promo. Don't change the channel, But back then, this large part of the ratings is the Rock and Stone Cold, and all these guys were killing on the mic.
Or even back in the day, the NWO.
Right, everybody, everybody that was killing on the mic was drawing on the mic. Yeah. The ratings showed. Interviews were hot. Interviews were doing good business. So Austin does a promo at the end of a show. Okay, and this is the main event of the show, and he calls out Mike Tyson to show up in Houston, Texas next week because if you do, I will knock your teeth out and whoop your ass.
Yeah.
So he was basically challenging. The promo the week before, going into the next week, he was challenging, if Mike Tyson shows up, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the hottest guy babyface in the world right now, is going to whip his ass.
Yeah. Right.
And they showed it, and they had face to face. It was a big pull apart.
Right.
And
right. That was great.
So it's it was the show,
Right. And don't forget, Mike had only gotten out of prison 2.5 years before, and he was coming off the 2 Holyfield fights, including the one where he bit him. So Mike had a lot of heat.
Right.
And with the commission, and they stopped him from fighting and all that. So
yeah,
and they took, but let's just take away the heat for a minute. He was coming off, all that, which made him hotter, and he was okay. But just the way that they did it in AEW and the way they did it in WWE was night and day. Bad. You know what I'm saying?
It sucked.
And then they had the bad luck that they couldn't do nothing with Tyson because I guess he was going to get ready for the Roy Jones fight. So that kind of went nowhere. I'm sure they can revisit it later, but it was kind of like a sparkler, in a world of firecrackers. You know what I'm saying? I do. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish what you're saying about Tyson.
I do think that if maybe somebody I don't know, if they did something right, like the Tyson thing, Connor might draw some numbers. LeBron might draw some numbers. I think if Trump came in there again, he would draw numbers. So there are some guys that would draw numbers, but I'll give you an example. Mexico, we don't go to the celebrity world that much. So when we do, it usually works. Like when we brought Cain Velasquez in, bro, that was huge. As you saw in WWE, it wasn't a real big deal. But I also think that if Cody and Jericho came back to WWE, that would pop a rating too. So there's probably a couple things that could pop a rating. I actually have a couple ideas, but I'm going to save those for myself because I don't want them being used.
Yeah,
Boom.
I was just going to say the same thing you did. I always thought Connor could pop a number for either company if he showed up for a thing. I don't know if time's running out on that, but Trump was the other one I was going to say, of course. And so exactly like you said.
Let me ask you a question. Friendship aside, Disco, if Vince Russo were to show up on that show, would that pop a rating?
On AEW?
On WWE?
If he showed up?
Yeah.
Maybe a little, it's a minor, you know.
Yeah, outside of the bubble, nobody knows who Vince is.
What if he was the head of Retribution?
That'd be hysterical.
That's money.
Yeah. And they would point to his podcast where he's burying Retribution to show how devious of a plan it
My
was.
favorite, bro. My
Working us the
favorite.
whole time.
It's gonna be pretty hard to beat this. My favorite is Retribution being in the Raw draft. That to me
Right.
was tremendous.